Dishes are done. He's been tapping away on his phone for like an hour. Doesn't even bother to ask how my day was or anything. God, we're such a cliché. Married 10 years, and honestly, I feel like the roommate, not a wife. It's suffocating. Yesterday was the last straw. I spent forever planning this cute birthday picnic for him. Thought it'd be fun. Different. The dude just shrugged and was like, "Hey, can't we just get a pizza?" It's small, I know, but it felt like he took a dump on my effort. Something snapped inside of me. Not love, more like pissed off, I guess. Later at Sarah's work party, the one with the terrible punch, some guy from accounting started flirting with me, Rob or Rick, something like that. Nothing special, honestly, but he wasn't my boring-ass life, you know? We joked around, maybe got a little too close on the dance floor. When he offered to walk me out, something in me was like, screw it, why not? The kiss was messy. Too much booze involved. Should have been gross, but honestly, it felt good. My heart was racing like I was back in college or something. For a hot minute, I wasn't just some dude's wife. I was wanted, I guess. Did things go further? None of your business, okay? But I felt like I broke a chain that had been choking me. Going home felt different, exciting, scary, everything mixed up. It was messed up but felt weirdly right somehow. The next morning I woke up, that excitement was still there, plus a big dose of what the hell did I do? Yeah, probably wrong, but damn, part of me wants to do it again, and that's the truth. It's like I'm on this emotional roller coaster I can't get off. Half of me is all, holy crap, what are you doing? But then there's this other half that's like, hell yeah, this is good. It makes me feel disgusting and alive all at the same time. I can't stop thinking about it. The sneaking around, the rush of doing something so wrong. Rick or whatever texted me yesterday. Turns out his desk is actually on the same floor as mine, just never noticed him before. We've been sneakily flirting over stupid emails, pretending to work. Feels like middle school, but like hot middle school. I keep imagining what'll happen if we actually meet up. And it's both terrifying and thrilling. He asked if I wanted to grab a drink after work. I knew how that would go. But my brain just kept coming up with excuses. You know, like, it's just one drink, a little fun. Then it was, my husband deserves this. He hasn't even looked at me in weeks. I debated in my head the whole day, feeling like I was gonna crack. After work, I found myself at that same cheesy bar. Rick was already there, and as soon as I saw him, it was done. No more guilt trip in my head, just this buzzing under my skin. One drink turned into 3, then who knows? Everything got blurry and perfect. He kissed me in the cab, his hands everywhere. Damn, it's been forever. Even though I told myself I wouldn't go home with him, when we got to my apartment, it wasn't even a question. Waking up this morning, I wanted to throw up. But not just from the hangover. I kept seeing my husband's face, the way he smiles at me. How the hell am I going to act normal? I'm supposed to go on a work trip with him this weekend. How am I going to look him in the eye without feeling like I'm about to puke? Maybe I can get sick, somehow fake it. Ugh, how did I get myself into this? Okay, so lying is way easier than I thought. Traffic was a nightmare. Had to help Janet finish a report. It just rolls off the tongue. I'm even starting to believe it myself. The worst part is, I swear my husband eats it up. He barely asks questions, just nods and makes one of those dumb jokes that's supposed to sound supportive. It's actually worse than if he argued with me. Is he that clueless? Or has he checked out so much that he just doesn't give a damn? Last night I told him I had a girls' night. He just said, have fun. Didn't even ask who I was going with. Part of me is relieved, but another part kind of wants him to blow up to show he cares at all. Guess that's messed up, but whatever. At this point, I'm almost trying to get him to notice, maybe force some reaction out of him. Rick and I met at the hotel bar. He's so different from my husband. Bold, makes me feel seen. The way he looks at me, it's intoxicating. I know it's shallow, but it's been so long since someone made me feel like desired, you know? We ended up back at his place, and he didn't waste any time making his intentions clear. The whole thing felt rushed, like he was just ticking boxes. But I'll admit, the attention was addicting, even if it was a bit rough and impersonal. Coming home afterward was a trip. I snuck in, feeling like a teenager, but the adrenaline was insane. The next morning, I waited for some sign he suspected something. Maybe a weird question? A suspicious glance? Anything. I even put on extra makeup like the most obvious scarlet letter ever, practically daring him to say something. He just smiled sleepily and said, "You seem happy this morning. That's it. That's the grand confrontation? This whole thing, it's like a hilarious joke I can't share with anyone. But also kinda sad, isn't it? It's not only the sneaking that's turning me on, it's the risk of getting caught. I'm not even sure if I like Rick all that much. I think what I'm starting to love is the feeling of rebellion, of living on the edge, like I'm daring my boring life to blow up in my face. This isn't the same woman who used to plan cute little picnics, that's for sure. I'm starting to wonder who I even am anymore. The game has definitely changed. I'm the one calling the shots now, both with Rick and my husband. It's a weird, heady feeling, especially with my husband. It started small, leaving a lipstick mark on his collar accidentally, stuff I'd have freaked out about a few months ago. Now it's exciting, seeing how he reacts. He just gets flustered and brushes it off. It's honestly pathetic, but I can't help but love it. Rick, on the other hand, is another problem entirely. He started acting all possessive, texts all the time, wanting to meet up, saying stuff like, "This could be something real. Yuck." I was clear from the beginning. Fun, no strings. If the guy starts getting needy, the thrill's gone. I've been dodging his calls, making excuses. Maybe it's time to cut ties? But I'm also a bit scared. He knows my office, my schedule. If he got weird, it could get messy fast. With both of them, I'm walking a tightrope. The other day, I forgot to change my perfume back before coming home, and my normally clueless husband actually said, you smell different. Nice." My heart pounded, but I just shrugged and said it was a new sample from work. Then last night, Rick cornered me by the water cooler and whispered, "When am I gonna see you again?" That bold move in the middle of the office? Talk about reckless. My blood turned to ice, but I just plastered a fake smile and said I was super busy. It's like the higher the risk, the hotter it gets. But I'm not stupid. This can't last. It's getting harder to lie, to remember which lies I told who. It's a matter of time before something slips and this whole thing blows up in my face. It'll be spectacular, that's for sure. Part of me is looking forward to it, that sick, twisted part I'm starting to really enjoy. My husband's been acting weird all week. He stares at me like he's trying to figure something out. Yesterday morning, the idiot actually sniffed my shirt before I went to work and said, Is that a new perfume?" Thank God I had that random sample I'd actually forgotten about. Covered my ass, but the way he looked at me, it sent a shiver down my spine. He's been extra helpful too, like creepily helpful. Doing dishes without being asked, planning that picnic I didn't even want in the first place. Honestly, it's unnerving. Is he trying to make amends for something, or is he buttering me up for what he's about to find out? It's driving me crazy, wondering whether he knows or he's just onto me generally being a weirdo. All this stress hasn't helped with Rick. He bombarded me with texts again yesterday, finally cornering me in the office kitchen. "You're ignoring me. What's going on?" he hissed. "Listen, Rick, I'm busy. There's nothing going on," I lied. "Don't play dumb. You know I want more than this." He practically growled. His eyes were scary. Thank God Sarah from marketing walked in, all smiles. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened. I made a lame excuse and practically ran away. That night, Nightmare City, I tossed and turned, seeing my husband's confused face, imagining Rick getting violent. Then the real kicker. I must have been sleep-talking because my husband woke me up shaking my shoulder. "Who's Rick?" he asked, voice tight. Damn it, my heart nearly stopped. I faked being groggy, mumbling some nonsense about work and rolled over. He didn't buy it. I could feel him glaring at me in the dark. The air was thick with suspicion now. The stupid part? I'm not even scared. The more trapped I feel, the more powerful it makes me. I'm playing a high-stakes game with both of them, and right now I swear I'm winning. It's a sick game, a deadly one probably. But my God, is it exciting. I had to end this with Rick. It was a ticking time bomb, and that sleep-talking slip-up, that lit the fuse. I found him outside the office building, smoking by his tacky sports car. Typical. "Look, this has to stop," I said, trying to sound firm. He smirked, tossing his cigarette. "Stop? Why? Is your hubby finally catching on?" I glared at him. "This was never supposed to get serious, just let it go." His smile vanished. "That easy for you, huh? Think you can just use me and toss me aside? Think again," he snarled, stepping closer. That's when the fear hit. It wasn't even what he said, but the look in his eyes. Pure rage. I tried to back away, but he grabbed my wrist tight. "Let me go!" I hissed, trying to pull free. "Not until you understand. I'm not letting this end, you hear me?" His voice was a low growl now. His fingers were digging into my skin. I ripped my arm away, heart pounding. "You're crazy," I said, trying to sound calm. "Leave me alone or I swear." "You swear what? You'll tell what? That you're some bored housewife? We both know how that'll end," he sneered. He was right. My husband would think I was insane. Walking away was the hardest thing I've done. Every step, I expected Rick to grab me, to do something violent. I was shaking, but it wasn't just fear. It was fury, too. He thinks he can threaten me. I'll show him. My first thought was, should I tell my husband? Get his help dealing with Rick? But no. That would mess up everything. I had to handle this myself. The old me would have crumbled, let Rick walk all over me, or begged my husband for protection. Not anymore. Something shifted in me that day. Walking back into that office, everyone seemed like puppets, pathetic. I was wired, scared but ready for a fight. I don't know what I'll do, but I know this. Rick isn't the only one who can play dirty. I'm done being a victim. It's my turn to teach them both a lesson they won't forget. The house had an eerie quiet after my husband left for work yesterday. I skipped doing the breakfast dishes, just sitting with my coffee, trying to think clearly. It was obvious he was onto me. That panicked energy he's always trying to hide. He was on the verge of snapping. The question was, who would he snap at? Me? Rick? Both? That night was brutal. He wouldn't meet my eyes at dinner. The forced pleasantries about work, the weather, it made me want to scream. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Just say it. Whatever you think you know, spit it out. I don't know anything, okay? His voice was tight but had an edge of desperation. Cut the crap. I may not be a genius, but I'm not stupid. What did you find? A private investigator? Did you follow me? I knew I was hitting a nerve. He exploded. Stop playing the victim! You're the one cheating! He slammed down a stack of papers, the force making my wine glass rattle. Photos, me and Rick at a restaurant, us kissing outside my favorite bar. Nothing crazy, but damning proof. But then I saw them. The dates written on the photos. It hit me. These weren't recent. These were all weeks, even a few months old. Before that blow-up with Rick. Did my husband have these all along? Was he just waiting? It didn't make sense. This is old. I ended that. He's been stalking me, harassing me. I trailed off, playing my role perfectly as the terrified victim. His shock was obvious. Wait, you ended it? Why didn't you say, and let you hire a goon to bash his head in? Oh, please, you think I can control him? My voice dripped with sarcasm. Finally, he was the one on the defensive. He sank back into the chair, those photos spread out on the table between us like a twisted timeline. He rubbed his forehead, defeated. Sorry, it looked so bad. And lately, he couldn't even finish the sentence. That's when the plan started to form. I'd used his own paranoia against him. Now, while he was vulnerable, I had to strike. This wasn't just my escape route. This was the opening I needed to take complete control. I spent the next morning on eggshells. My husband was quiet, confused. He kept muttering, I don't understand. Were you lying to him, or? He couldn't process it. Good. That's exactly how I needed him. Off balance and unsure. The key was to play innocent but afraid. The perfect image of a long-suffering wife. He's obsessed. It's terrifying. I tried to break it off, I swear, but he wouldn't let it go. I practically sobbed, a tissue clutched in my hand for dramatic effect. He sighed. Why didn't you say? I cut him off, feigning more tears. Say what? That my husband thinks I'm a liar and jumps to the worst conclusions? I didn't want to make things worse. His face fell. Guilt washes over people so easily, so predictable. That night I ramped it up. Couldn't sleep, fake nightmares, you know the drill. When he held me, I made sure to shiver like I couldn't get the image of Rick's rage out of my mind. Then came the payoff. A few days later, my husband came home early, ashen-faced. He stammered but couldn't finish. Who, dear? What is it? I asked, fake concern lacing my voice. He tried to break into the garage. I called the police, but he got away. That's when it hit me. The perfect opportunity. Rick was desperate, volatile. We weren't dealing with a sane person here. His obsession with me was now a ticking time bomb. All I had to do now was push the right buttons and let it explode. A few days later, leaving the gym, I spotted his car. I accidentally bumped into him as if startled. Rick! God, please leave me alone. My husband will— His crazed laughter cut me off. Your husband? Weak, pathetic. He doesn't deserve you. The way he looked at me, with that possessive hunger, chilled me to the bone. This wasn't about playing the game anymore. This was about survival. He stepped closer and I screamed loud and clear, then bolted to the parking lot, hoping someone would see us. The next night, it all went down. We were watching some dumb show on TV. Crash. The sound of breaking glass shattered the quiet. My husband leaped up. I screamed, authentic this time, and there was Rick, eyes blazing, holding a crowbar. My husband tried to fight, but Rick was fueled by crazy. I dove for the kitchen, grabbing the heavy cast-iron pan. Survival instincts kicking in hard. What happened next was a blur. Blood, yelling, Rick swinging that damn crowbar. It connected with a sickening thud, and my husband crumpled. I swung the pan, once, twice, screaming for him to stop. I don't even remember if Rick went down or ran off or— Honestly, I don't know how it ended. I just remember the blood, and my husband lying there, unnaturally still. It wasn't part of the plan, but in the chaos, the opportunity presented itself. My heart hammered in my chest as the police arrived. It was like I was on autopilot, spewing out my memorized story. Deranged ex, harassment, breaking in. I must have repeated, he was obsessed, a dozen times. The cops were sympathetic. I was the perfect victim. Petite woman, terrified voice, the whole bit. Plus, the crime scene backed up my story. Broken glass, signs of a struggle, my husband's— well, you can imagine. The investigation was a fog. Days blurred together. Cops questioning me, going through our finances, background checks on both me and Rick. Thank God for those old photos. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, the moment they'd see through me. They even asked about Rick's whereabouts. I feigned ignorance, wide-eyed and tearful. Weeks later, the news came. Rick was found dead. Suicide, apparently. They painted it as a tragic end for a disturbed guy pushed over the edge by guilt and heartbreak. Me, I was cleared. The perfect tragedy. A woman harassed, her brave husband killed defending her. They were even sorry I wasn't eligible for some victims' compensation fund. I almost laughed. The funeral was another performance. Black dress, tasteful tears, whispered condolences from people who'd barely given me the time of day before. It was disgusting but necessary. Had to play the grieving widow, make my sorrow look genuine. But the second that inheritance hit my account, let's just say I didn't feel sad for long. The house, the savings, the insurance, all mine. Freedom from that boring life, from that pathetic man. Was it worth it? Hell yes. Did I plan for my husband's death? Officially no. But let's just say it was a very, very convenient outcome of my plan to deal with Rick. People ask if I feel guilt. Honestly, not really. Remorse is for suckers. It was exciting, the whole thing. Like the best game of chess where you take out your opponent's king with one swift, unexpected move. I won, and now I get the spoils. Dealing with my husband's family was the worst part of all this. His sister, with her red-rimmed eyes and constant wailing, practically moved in. Endless cups of tea, forced sympathy, the works. It made me want to gag, especially when she'd bring up how devoted my husband was. What a good man he'd been. It took every ounce of self-control not to snap. The only bright spot was his brother, Mark. Older, quieter, the type to give you a long, considering look. At the funeral, he'd lingered as everyone else was leaving. I know this is a terrible time, but the police mentioned some irregularities, he'd said, choosing his words carefully. My heart skipped a beat. Irregularities? Like what? I tried to sound genuinely confused. Your relationship with another man. There were photos. He trailed off, searching my face. Damn. So much for everything being swept under the rug. That was a long time ago and completely over, I said, fluttering my eyelashes helplessly to distract him. His gaze narrowed. Are you sure about that? For one terrifying second, I thought he saw right through me. Then he just sighed. Look, if there's anything you need, anything at all. I mustered a tearful smile and thanked him. Close call. Mark was no idiot like my husband. I'd have to keep an eye on him. Life post-tragedy was different, lonely sometimes in that big house. But the freedom was worth more than any cozy companionship. Then came David. We met at some charity fundraiser, all suits and boring conversation. Except David wasn't boring, not at all. He saw right through my grieving widow act, a smirk in his eyes when he offered his condolences. Your tears are very convincing, he'd whispered later by the dessert table. Intriguing. A man who wasn't fooled easily? This was new. We started seeing each other. Fancy dinners, whispered conversations in shadowy bars. He was smart, successful, with an edge my husband never had. I told him stories, tailored versions of my life, leaving out the messy details. He asked questions, always those sharp, probing ones, and I started to wonder, was this a twisted kind of fun, the thrill of being found out, or was it something deeper? Was I falling into the same trap, choosing another man who could become either my weapon or my downfall? The thought sent a delicious shiver through me. Maybe the game wasn't over.